Hello, and welcome to the Front Seat Life podcast. I am your host, Jessica Butts, where I am here to help you be unapologetically who you are in your life, love, and business by understanding and embracing your innate personality type. Most of you know I am all about not doing stuff that you suck at, absolutely leaning into your front seat, and that is what we're going to be talking about in this podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I am the CEO and creator of Front Seat Life. I am a Myers-Briggs expert. I'm a life and business coach for intuitive women, author, keynote speaker, obviously podcaster, and former couples therapist and psychotherapist. I'm an ENFJ, truth teller, F-bomb dropper, lover of all things Maui, and fiercely dedicated to helping you be unapologetically who you are. I am so excited to take you on this new series called Front Seat 16. And that means we are going to do a deep dive into all 16 Myers-Briggs types, as well as the front seat methodology behind every single one of the types. So it'll be a 16-week series. I have guests every single week coming on, talking to you about some of their front seatness, some of their back seat BS. That is what they're terrible at, and everything in between. Okay, buckle up. Let's do this. Welcome everybody to ENFP week. This is probably my favorite type, other than being an ENFJ. So for years, I wanted to be an ENFP, and I would take the assessment over and over again. And I would come out an ENFP, which is got to be hilarious to everybody who knows me, because I'm probably a 25 out of 30 on the J scale. I'm a super J. I'm very controlling, very organized, very long-term vision person, but I love ENFPs. And so I would skew it to be what I thought I wanted to be, because ENFPs are very cheerleady, very rah-rah, very loving and open and compassionate. Again, they're kind of named the cheerleader. They are enthusiastic. They have a lot of charisma. People love them. They are very fly by the seat of their pants, go with the flow. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. I feel like they've just got life figured out. They just are so just spontaneous and enjoyable to be around. You want to be around them. They're those kinds of people because they have this really beautiful energy. So they're extroverted. They are giving their best selves to other people. They are intuitive, big picture thinkers, think outside the box. They have lots of fun visions and where we're going in the world. They're feelers. And so they're heart-centered and compassionate and empathetic towards other people and animals. And then their P is just very undaunted by surprise. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. They're so go with the flow. One of my dear friends, I traveled with her to Maui a couple years ago, and she was the most delightful person in the world to travel with, because everything was just whatever. I'm just along for the ride. She's a great conversationalist. We talked about like changing the world and our plans for the future, and, journaled on the beach every morning and have these very deep, thoughtful, wonderful conversations with each other. But then there was never a moment of like, oh, we wanted to do something different. She just was like, hey, whatever, I'm along for the ride. Let's do whatever. And so as a control freak, I was like, this is freaking perfect. I get to make the plans and eat where I want to eat and do what I want to do and decide what beach we're going to for the day. And this wonderful, enjoyable person that I am with is just along for the ride. So they are incredibly delightful people. Their front seat, ENFP front seats are just wonderful. So their driver is an extroverted intuitive, which means they are always thinking about what's next. They are dreaming about the future. They are making big plans. They love to talk about what they're going to do in their relationship or in their business or in their life. They're always thinking about what next conference they could go to or which coach they could hire to change their life. They are constantly thinking about how they can better themselves, better their children, better their business, better the world. They're very altruistic, kind of compassionate, caring people, and that is their driver. Their second person in their front seat, the co-pilot, is an introverted feeler, which is a very interesting part about ENFPs because they actually have a very quiet, introverted, deep well of emotions that only a certain few people see. As an example, an ENFJ, that's my driver. So that's what people see. So I'm always talking about emotions. I'm always trying to pull it out of people. I'm always trying to get people to talk about their feelings and their emotions. Hence why I was a great therapist. And then my co-pilot is introverted intuitive. So all of those ideas going on are in my head, where ENFPs are the exact opposite. They are sharing their ideas. They're great at collaborating. They're great at having a business coach because they love talking about how they need help. They are great collaborators, but they need a lot of help. They need coaches. They need help talking about their ideas. They love talking about their ideas. And then again, their co-pilot is this deep well of emotion. And so sometimes that can be surprising to people. You may hurt their feelings and not know it. They seem very cheerleading and gregarious out in the world, yet there's still a really deep part of them where they need to journal. They need to have their own processing time. They need one-on-one time with people that they love very much. They need to connect deeply. I would have a hypothesis that one of their love languages is probably quality time because they love connecting with people on a deep, deep level. Because that is their co-pilot. So their front seat is just big ideas, sharing it with the world. And then their co-pilot is an introverted feeler, which you may or may not see if they decide to let you in or not. Okay, so the ENFP's backseat, their drunk uncle, which is the thing that they suck at, is anything to do with logic. So anytime they are being asked to be impersonal, to be logical, to not lead with their feelings, facts, data, anything to do, again, without being able to access their feelings and the possibilities. Black and white thinking is very ridiculous and backseat to them. And they really suck at having to be logical. The one ENFP that I'm thinking about, it's just putting her in a box, or even Gina. She's a wonderful, amazing goddess, quite honestly, therapist. She's just incredible. And any time that she would have to be put in a box, in fact, this is why she left her therapy practice. This is also why I left a therapy practice and she now does coaching, is because if we can't access our feelings, our emotions, thinking outside the box, that is our backseat. So the logic that a therapy degree, or a therapy license requires you to function under is just too stifling. It's too, logical. And so that box of having to literally check boxes, or to not be able to be free thinking or free feeling or share the way we want to share or have relationships with our clients in the way that we want to, just does not work for us. And it absolutely puts us into our baby in the back seat. It causes us stress and anxiety and worry. It's that reptilian brain of, I'm going to lose my shit. And so what happens is the baby in the backseat wakes up, and the baby in the backseat for a ENFP is an introverted sensor. And so what's really interesting is this is the exact opposite of their driver. Their driver is talking and sharing and big picture ideas and all of the possibilities, the what ifer, and their backseat, their baby in the backseat, is quiet. and doesn't want to talk and might make lists and gets in their head and gets really worried about details and data and minutia and doing things right. So I had a wonderful ENFP client a couple of years ago, and we put her in a hot seat, and we were having an in-person meeting, and I could tell was in her back seat. She was just asking me these her energy was so off. And she started asking me these she even had a look on her face, right? Of just like, tell me about this, and just got very logical and detailed and minutia and could not think outside the box. She was trapped, and everyone started kind of going at her of like, oh, I think this is happening. And oh, I think this is happening. And I said to everybody, I said, stop. What is going on with you right now? I said, you are in your back seat. You are analyzing everything. You are micromanaging yourself. And of course, she burst into tears. The tears started flowing, and she realized that's exactly what her baby in the backseat looks like. And it looks not like her front seat. It's over analytical. It's worrisome, not thinking outside of the box, being very detailed and data and tell me this. And I can't do that. It's limiting beliefs. Again, I think the best way to describe it is micromanaging herself. And that is an absolute death trap, because what an ENFP needs to get back to are possibilities and options and patterns and beliefs and just big picture thinking. That is an ENFP. And so whenever they're in that place, it is the absolute death of their creativity. Okay. Let's talk about their archetype. They are the NPs, the wonderful squirrels of the world. They are kind of all over the place. They have lots of ideas, but they have a lot of trouble finishing projects. So I call them the squirrels from the movie Up with Doug the dog. And Doug is paying attention, and then whoop, a squirrel goes by. And they're just very distracted by bright, shiny objects. However, this is kind of leading into the careers, and maybe I'll put these together in this one, is they are brainstormers. They love to come in, start a project, and then they want to be out of there. They are not people who like finishing projects. They may not even like working long-term on a project. They may not want to work with a specific client for a very long period of time, because again, they are brainstormers. They are somebody who can come in, see the issue, see the pattern, give a bunch of information, and then like, peace out, I'm out of here. That is their gift. It is their archetype. It is their zone of genius. It is what they are absolutely amazing at. So they are great coaches. They are great rocket fuel, that book by Gino Wickman. They are great visionaries of the business. They are absolutely horrible integrators. It is probably the worst part of them is getting shit done. They are absolutely not good integrators. They are the visionaries. They are the Walt Disneys of the world. They are the people who are thinking outside the box, and then they must have somebody, a right-hand person, to help them get all of those ideas done. Otherwise, very honestly, they will never get them done. They will never get them done if they do not have somebody to help them implement all of their ideas. So I kind of added the careers with the archetype. Their arch nemesis are the SJs. So SJs, and this was funny, my sister and her best friend, they loved each other so much, but this is where they struggled, is her best friend was an NP. And NPs, again, are just fly by the seat of their pants. Don't worry about it. We'll get there when we get there. They're kind of running late. They're back to my friend who I went to Maui with. She just didn't know that you have to have a suitcase limit, and she showed up with the 66-pound bag. We laughed our asses off about that the entire week. I mean, we were like hashtag 66 pounds because it was just hilarious because SJs are, how do you not know that? And there's rules and there's regulations and I need you to be on time and I need you to pack the right things. And what are you doing? And it's a lot of controlling behaviors of, I need you to be a certain way when all NPs want to do is to be free. NPs want to be free. ENFPs want to be free. They want freedom of speech, the freedom of their life, freedom to do what they want to do. 9-to-5 jobs can be extremely difficult for them because they want so many other things in their life. They have visions for themselves, their spouses, their kids, people around them. Again, they are just this dreamy, wonderful, charismatic type. And I hope you enjoy today's episode with one of the women that I went to graduate school with, Gina. She is absolutely incredible. And her partner, Rae, they are just a gift to the universe as individuals, but especially as a couple. And I hope that you enjoy today's special episode, which I am doing a couple episode because they are both ENFPs. And they decided, I asked them, or we discussed having them come on as a couple so that they could be really open about their life and how wonderful it is and the things that as a couple they struggle with not getting things done. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Front Seat Life podcast. It is going to be a hell of an episode. I have a very dear friend of mine, Gina, is here with her husband and spouse, Rae, and we are going to jump in today and talk about so many great ENFP things. But before we get started, Gina and Rae, tell us about yourself. What's up with you? Where are you from? And how did you get on here?
Yeah. Okay. So Rae said me first. I'm Gina, and I met Jessica over 10 years ago when we were in grad school to be therapists back then. I have since left the field of therapy. And after reviewing some ENFP things, I think it's fun. I felt too confined by the rules
yes, me too.
And regulations in those systems and so I'm a coach and I do a lot of work with couples around healthy sexuality and intimacy and communication. I'm also an avid gardener and have like a pretty lush backyard hobby farm going. And Rae and I've been together 12 years tomorrow.
Oh, happy anniversary.
And we live in Madison, Wisconsin, because I grew up in Wisconsin and we have 2 small children and my parents are here to help us out with our 2 and 4-year-old. So that's a little bit about me.
Great. You guys have your hands full.
We do. I'm Rae. I am a graphic designer. So I work for a small college as their kind of all around marketing materials person, but I also do, freelance graphic design and I'm a fine artist professionally. So I have a lot of hats. They're all art related, all creativity. Gina and I met, like she said, 12 years ago. And yeah, there are some things that we're not great at, which is,
very true.
Really organized stuff. We're not as good at, but we, because I think we also get each other. We've had it feels like 12 years, and it also feels like we've been together a year because it's gone by so fast, and I've had so much fun with you. So I'm excited to talk to you about this stuff.
Rae's also not telling you that he very recently, in the last couple of years, has bridged into a lot of public speaking, and he does a lot of activism work with queer and trans visibility in the arts, and that's become like a big part of your work that nobody ever expected.
Nobody expected that.
Yeah.
Including you?
I definitely did not expect that. Yeah. But turns out when you make art about the trans community and you are a member of that community, people want you to talk about it. And so I kind of had to force myself out of my own comfort zone. And it turns out that I actually really like it. I love it. I love talking to people.
Jessica does a ton of speaking too. So that's why I was pointing that out. Yeah.
So Rae, we're going to lead in there. I love that before we started, we were like, we're just going to say where this is going to go. And we're already like off script. So let's start there for a second, Rae. So being an ENFP, this is a natural role for you, actually, speaking. And it's kind of the cheerleader role, if you will. You're very good at inspiring and motivating and pumping people up. So what's interesting to me is that you just said you didn't think you'd be good at it. And then Gina's, of course, saying you are good at it. So how has that been for you, realizing, oh, wow, I actually really like this and I might even be really awesome at this? Because that's kind of your front seat.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. When I was going through the questions of, kind of figuring out the ENFP thing for me, there are some areas where I really do like to be alone. And a lot of my childhood, I ended up kind of alone. I was a single child. And my art practice is, in my studio. And I prefer to do even my graphic design stuff in my own studio. So I do spend a lot of time alone, but I also really do feed off of the energy of people. And I had done like a little bit of speaking beforehand, but the preparation, like writing and preparation for speaking, always made me really anxious. But when I went into approaching this work and realizing that I had to talk about it, I worked with Gina, who's an amazing coach. So I lucked out there. But she helped me work through where I would just talk, and then she would write stuff down that I was saying. And she kind of helped me formulate. And I did approach okay, if I'm going to get up and speak about things, I'm not going to get up and lecture people. I'm going to get up and I'm going to do what I do, which is tell stories about my own life. And so once I did that, and I'm just getting up and talking about things that I care about, it turns out I'm good at it, but also really love it. I love it. And I think people can tell that. And that's why they appreciate it. And so
I think when we started talking about you getting into speaking too, I think back even to the beginning of our relationship, the moments when I've seen Rae light up at a party and tell stories, he actually kind of wags his tail and everybody listens, and he will be the center of the storytelling a lot. He's a great storyteller. And I think you had this story in your mind that speaking meant I have to have this organized bullet pointed PowerPoint and teach the technical skills, the blah, blah, blah. And he is not, administrative skills are not Rae's strength. Organization is not Rae's strength. And so thinking about it that way, like college professor with a curriculum format, whatever, that doesn't work for him. But riffing about authenticity and self-love and coming to understand yourself in front of it, he talks about pretty vulnerable stuff, and then it resonates with people, and it gets the whole room jazzed. That he's great. He's perfect for that.
And this is already why I wanted to do this podcast is I want people to hear themselves in other people, because what we do is we assume that we have to do it like everyone else. And I think Rae and myself included, we watch people with PowerPoints or with notes, or they have things memorized. And when I started speaking, I was a little bit like you, Rae. I just was like, fuck it. I'm just going to get up there and talk about other people and tell stories and do it my way. And I was like, oh my God, people like this. This is great. I can just do it my way. And people can also do it their way. They can have bullet points. And I always like to use Amy Porterfield as an example. She's an amazing coach, and she has this great podcast, and she's an ISFJ. And so she's super introverted. She's super detail oriented. And you can tell in her podcast that it's rehearsed and it's just very organized. And if Rae tried to get up on stage and be Amy Porterfield, and Amy Porterfield tried to be like Rae, it just doesn't work. We've got to learn how to do it our own way.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. I'm going to ask a question because we're never even going to get to any. So number one is, how do you think your type, ENFP, has positively affected your life and your relationship? And that question's for both of you.
ENFP, if I think about magnetism, reading a room, charisma and valuing communication, that's my entire career. Love right it. There, right? Yeah. Bringing people together and helping them figure out how to get along and how to communicate, how to how to really be their true selves. And then I think like between us, I end up like, as a trained couples therapist, I like track shit in our relationship a lot, where I'll be like, hey, it feels like this is a little off, or what do you need about this? Or, how's this going? And it's part kind of like my natural inclination, I think, as an ENFP. And then I fueled it with like years of education and training and watching other people. But we do a lot more like processing, checking in than other couples I know.
Like I've been in, many other relationships before I met you. And I appreciate like our ability to communicate. Like that is the one thing that has stood out to me since like the day we met is like our communication is so easy. And like, even when we have fights, like now I know to trust it. At the beginning, I didn't know, but like every time we get into a fight, like I hate it. I hate fighting with you, and it's anxious. Like it's anxiety provoking, and it's, especially in the beginning, it would cause me fear, and anxiety and a lot of stress when we would fight. But like, what's been interesting is that even when we argue, like we are able to come like to a stronger understanding of our relationship after every fight. I feel like every time we go through something hard, even if it's not a fight, we've gone through a lot of hard things together in our lives, and like we get stronger with that. And I think it's our communication, our ability.
I will also say that it helps that we're both ENFPs. When we were reviewing some,
I was just gonna go here. Okay,
the
good.
way that we take in and process information similar. If Rae was a detailed data analytic type person, an STJ, we would be having two different conversations. And I see that all the time in my work. But like we're both like, well, this is generally how I felt about it. And we don't really remember the details of how we got there, but our guts are telling us what's true, and that's what matters to both of us, not like what actually happened, but how do you feel about it? Yeah. And so because we align that way, it makes it so much easier than if either of us had a different style. Bridging that's a lot more complicated, I think.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Gina, because I was going to say, outside of your, PhD in couples counseling, I wondered if you guys noticed that similarity. So you both have had previous relationships. And so you now can see that being similar types is easier. Yes, you guys are cracking up.
So can I just tell?
Tell all the stories. Jessica will love them.
When I knew I was like done with this one relationship that was right before I met Gina, the person showed up to a conversation. We were supposed to have a talk. And this person showed up with a 4-page list of all the things I needed to work on in the relationship. And I was like, nope, I can't even look at your, this is it. We're done. I can't look at a 4-page list. And we had very different communication styles.
That is so brutal.
Work, like it just didn't work for us. It didn't work. It wasn't working for that person, and it wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
I think about my ex-wife, who is wonderful, but she is a professional umpire. She is like an internationally renowned
for real?
umpire. Yeah. For real. Yeah. And think about that, like rules, order, structure, memorization, tracking kind of things about details. That like, I used to go to her softball games and be like, I love her, but this is mind numbing to me. Like, I want to know what it means to you and why, like,
not the strike box is this big.
You have these rituals where we like on New Year's Eve, we will dream up the year. We create this big spreadsheet of like all our big dreams and visions. I think that's one way that our ENFP-ness comes out a lot. Yeah. Penis sounds like a dirty word.
I love that you just said that. Everyone just giggled because that's what happens.
Every new moon, we like to try and like sit down and like establish like what are our visions for this month, right? And I can almost like hear some of the FTJ folks who I love dearly will be like, that is not my jam in that way. Like ours, I could show you, it's like a mess. Like we just write shit all over this paper and we kind of like, come up with dreams. Do we have a strategy or a spreadsheet anywhere involved? No.
And let's be real. How attracted to each other are you after that event?
So
it's like, it's good.
Yeah. It's like the ultimate. It's just very sexy, is it not?
Yeah. And we feel closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I'm really, really glad you brought this up because I would say probably the number one question I get asked about types about relationships is exactly what we're talking about. Is it easier to be in partnership with your same type? And my answer always is yes. Yes,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean your relationship is not going to last. It doesn't mean you're not going to love them like crazy. It doesn't mean you're not going to be happily together for as long as you're together. But the reality is it is harder because Gina, when Ray's going through something, or he's in his back seat or something, you can go, oh, I know that. I know what that looks like because that's me. And vice versa. When your person's under stress or acting out or being crazy or whatever, you're like, I know that because that's me.
I think it's easier to empathize and connect.
Totally.
I think managing a life for two ENFPs, we have never balanced a checkbook. I do our taxes.
Wait, this is my next question.
On TurboTax with like a pile of receipts that we don't know what we spent on what. We don't know what Ray's art income is until I do our taxes. Like we have a party coming up this weekend. Our daughter's turning 2. I don't know how many people are coming. I know I sent out an invite. We'll make a bunch of stuff. It'll be fun. But I'm
so stressed out. I'm so stressed.
Fly by the seat of our pants. We have a million ideas. And we both are like workaholics. Like,
but we've been lucky that a lot of it is like
works. Yeah, it's like worked itself out.
Do your kids get signed up for school in time? And who does that?
Oh, did you see our percentages?
I did. I actually, it was one of the things that I thought I was like, oh, I bet Gina gets stuck with some of those tasks because Ray, yours is 93% P. And so in relationships where the couple is the same type, and one of the dichotomies, specifically J and P, is the less J or the stronger P, like Ray gets off because he's like, peace out. I'm terrible at this. And then Gina, you're left and like, shit, so I got to pick up the slack.
Even I can recognize how bad it is. Very successful art career. He does beautiful work. And we just did his workflow for the first, I made him sit down and be like, what is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 for the first time.
But you've been an
artist for years.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been a professional fine artist for 5.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, this has never happened before. And like the whole time, all I wanted to do was hug her. And I was like, don't hug her right now.
Yeah, because when I have to do the J stuff, I'm like, oh, I gotta just bear down. Don't distract me.
So
distract
her.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like, the whole time I was like, this is the hottest thing ever. You are helping me with this. This is so bad at it.
Yeah.
This is interesting because I hear this a lot with couples, whether they're both P's or one is a J, is that P's actually, and so Ray, maybe you could answer this better because in your relationship, Gina, you have to show up as the J, is that I hear P's say they're very thankful. They're very thankful because innately, right? You don't do this because you want to do this. You do this because you were born this way. You were born kind of living 5 minutes in front of your face. That is your personality type. And so when I dated a P, it was my first P I've ever dated. And I was just like, this dude cannot, he can't. Every day he'd go to the grocery store. I'm like, why the fuck don't you just go on Sunday and get like a few days of food? And he's like, I don't know what I want to eat tomorrow. And I'm like, it's just literally mind-blowing to me. It was mind-blowing. So we dated long enough that I got him one of those like $7.99 calendars from Target, and I would write on it. And he's like, honey, this is so helpful. I just cannot tell you how helpful this is to me. And I just thought, this is really cute. Like, this is really eye-opening.
Yeah. Great. I mean, and there's also we do outsource, and this is part something that you have talked about, don't do shit you suck at, right? Like, we outsource when we have 2 small children. I used to do the cooking, and I just cannot plan in advance. And so we have HelloFresh come for a certain, and I don't have to think about what's coming. I just do what shows up that night. And for me, as somebody who very much like your ex, can't think ahead about feeding 4 human beings, it's so great. There's a service for that, right?
How has that helped your relationship? It helped you to appreciate each other and not focus on why isn't he doing this or why isn't she doing this? How does it help you love each other more?
For me, I've never, again, I was an only child. I lived alone a lot as in my 20s, I just didn't know how to prepare a meal for lots of people. And I would have like my 3 things that I could make, and that's still true. But for me, it's like, it's a lot easier to now know that there is a plan. I just have to follow a recipe, or there is a plan. Like now that we live close to Gina's parents, like we have dinners with them on certain nights, and like that actually alleviates, it's a small thing, but it really alleviates a lot of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we don't often think or plan ahead very much, like what does happen for us is there are plenty of times when neither of us will have planned, and we'll all of a sudden have like 2 screaming toddlers, and we're like, oh shit, no, neither of us thought about what's happening this afternoon. You know what I mean? Or like, what are we doing after nap? Or like, or we'll both kind of like fall into our flow, and then we'll get into a tiff because we both kind of like assumed we knew what was happening without checking in with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a double ENFP issue.
Yeah. So here's a really serious question, and I love that I'm about to ask this of a former couples therapist. I think every couple struggles with this, right? Of who's taking on the responsibilities. And interestingly, in a same type couple, 2 ENFPs, you're going to struggle. And you're both awesome at the same things, and you both suck at the same things. So what are some of the tools that you use other than HelloFresh to alleviate the stress that inevitably is going to come up from being a same type?
Well, there is, Rae has a lot of patience with me because when I have to do the J stuff, I get kind of control freaky about it. And I get like anxious. And he's really patient with me. He will take the kids away. So because like, you're doing taxes, babe, we'll be gone for the weekend. So you can just like hunker down and get it done kind of stuff. I think that really helps, and there's like a lot of appreciation. We kind of weight things like, I do the taxes, which is like such an incredible example of like a feat of strength for an ENFP.
Yes, ma'am.
But we both acknowledge like that is a real feat of strength, and I manage our finances. And so Rae, like we weight it when we look at other stuff. Rae does all of our laundry and all of our dishes. So the daily, like keeping up the house is largely falls over here, but I do all the extra stuff that only comes up once a time a year. And so we've weight
talked about these things. Like you actually prefer to pack the car when we go for a trip. And I know this now. And like, that actually gives you less stress than me trying to help. So I've learned, and we've talked about it of like, okay, I'll take care of the kids while you're packing the car. And, I think that goes back for me to like, I know less about the words and stuff that the 2 of you do, but what I know is that we've communicated about these things about like what you prefer to do, what I prefer to do. And then some of the stuff neither one of us wanted to do, but somebody's maybe a little bit better at it, like the taxes. So you end up doing it, but we communicate like, with our kids, we
clear space. Like you'll like get out of my hair, I'll get out of your hair when there's a thing. Like I know there are times when Rae does have to do like budgeting or applying for a grant or filling out like spreadsheets about stuff for his work, and I'll be like, we'll just back away. Let me just let you, like I know he's gonna be amped up. Let me pour you a drink or whatever the equivalent would be in our household. Yeah.
I think we do a good job of talking to each other about shared responsibilities and divvying them up instead of just making assumptions, which I've experienced in past relationships. And I know that that's the thing. Like people assume certain roles are theirs or their partners. And we've talked about those things a lot. And so that helps.
Yeah, this is great. You guys are a really beautiful example of loving each other by getting each other, right? There's so, this as a couples therapist, there's so much pathologizing. There's so much labeling. There's so much, right? You just said gender roles and you need to do this and whatever. And this is more of what we need in the world is like, let's just understand each other. Like, let's just get our personality types, whether they're the same in your guys' example or complete opposites. Like there's so many other relationships like that of like, let's just understand what each other is good at instead of assuming that everybody is good at what we're good at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In your case, that's true. But
Yeah.
I am so unbelievably excited. I feel like I need a drum roll, please. To announce that in conjunction with this podcast series, The Front Seat 16, I am opening up the brand new Front Seat Life Collective. It is 10 years of my work as a psychotherapist, as a Myers-Briggs expert, as a business coach and life coach, 5 different courses, 2.5 books, all in one all-inclusive membership group. I'm getting off of Facebook. I am healing my hustle, practicing what I preach. I have moved over to the unbelievably fabulous platform called Mighty Networks. We are still doing live calls. This is a safe and exclusive and incredible community for all my weirdos out there. So all my intuitives, it is time for us to come together, to gather, to learn about each other, to be inspired, to be motivated, and to be educated on this incredible part of your personality type. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. We will have spotlight speakers, guest speakers, and so much more. It will be open only for a period of time, so do not wait. It is an incredibly affordable price. You also get an opportunity to schedule one-on-one sessions with me, also at a discounted price, and I cannot wait. I literally can't wait to welcome you in to this new and exclusive and wonderfully private and incredibly inspiring community, the Front Seat Life Collective. To find out more, just go over to jessicabutts.com and I will see you on the inside.
I will also put in as a sex therapist, I will put in a plug that ENFPs as lovers, like I'm just going to say, if you want a good lover, I think get an ENFP to set together. Because there's so much like perceiving, like sensing what's going on for the other person, like reading the room, communicating what's going on. There's like no sense of time a lot of times. So we're just like, let's just do it. It's good. And I think about the sexual compatibility of the types. I don't know as much about the types just as you do, but I imagine like this is a hot one. That's what I think. Or maybe it's just us, but I think it's our ENFP.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. You clearly are very much in love with each other, but I would agree. So the two functional pairs, well, this is probably really like an intimate detail, but extroverts are more verbal in general. So I'm guessing they're also more verbal in bed. I hear there's people that are very quiet in bed. I don't really understand that. I don't either. And then your P is very spontaneous. So I'm guessing there's not a lot of scheduled sex in your house, but probably a lot of spontaneity of I'm in the mood. This sounds fun. And then your two functional pairs are certainly where you two connect even the most. Hence your like full moon exercises and your New Year's exercises also translates to sexually in the bedroom because your creativeness and your need for spontaneity and then obviously your heart connection. So the N is big picture, thinking outside the box, creativity, spontaneity, creative sexually, like there's not a lot of rules. And then obviously a heart connection as well. Does that sound?
Oh, can I share one of the examples that we talked about last night that we're like, oh, this is a good example of a piece. Okay. Yeah. So we host a game night. We love playing games. We have a bunch of friends come over and we will have like a spread of food and we have generally an idea of how many people are coming over. And we have a ton of games. Guess how many times either of us have ever read the rules of any of the games or taught the group what are the rules of the game or how to play. Never. And we own them. Like we own these games. We'll get out a stack of them and be like, here, and hand it off. We were using some friends of ours as an example to the eyes.
One friend who's like super into the rules.
Capricorn friends.
Yeah, let them do it. Yeah. Are you guys similar with like buying furniture? Like, I just don't follow the rules. I'm just going to be like,
that has been handed over to Gina. Gina is in charge of all of our decorating.
Yeah.
And I just trust her. At first I was like, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, okay, you're good at this. You just do this.
Yeah. This is why type is so fun to learn about, because it's so many of these little things. Speaking of HelloFresh too, is that so S's, those S types that are just real into details, they love a good recipe, right?
Yeah.
They are good bakers. They are good recipes. Cooking for you and I, all three of us, is just throw some shit in a bowl.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be fine. This is probably the right amount of salt. This is probably the right amount of cumin or whatever. Like, it's just so much more fun to just be like, this is good. I do HelloFresh too. And oftentimes they're like, oh, use part of this. I'm like, fuck it. Just throw the whole thing in. It's fine. I mean,
I've
it'll
got
be
a little
delicious.
extra something from the fridge. I'm just going to throw that in.
Absolutely. It'll be delicious. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not.
That's just the trick, right? Like, get me to bake a cake correctly. Like, no, like I can't follow the directions. But my mom, who is an ST, is like such a great baker. She can like follow the whole process and has patience for doing all the things right. I'm like,
so this is interesting, Gina. So your mom is an ST and you're now married to your same type. What are some of the things, knowing type as well as you do, that you have learned, just about the differences between these two main people in your life? What
I just see is like, we can all, and maybe you'll correct me on this, but like we all might get to the same place, right? But we like the path we take to get there could not be more different sometimes.
That's great.
Like the information we pay attention to and all the little decisions that we take left, right, or what up, down, whatever. It's like, and sometimes I feel like when you were like, this is the thing about, I feel like so curious about that perspective, because it is like so foreign. It's almost like exotic to me to be like, wow, you tracked that information and remembered it and then used that to inform your decision, right? Like when I picked a college, it just felt good to be on that campus. I didn't know how much it cost. I didn't know if they had my major, whatever. Other people have like, they choose based on information and like research. These big life decisions, right? Yeah.
But we don't know those. I mean, I love what you just said. And actually, of all the years I've been teaching this, I'm not sure I've ever put it like that, Gina, is that we end up at the end. Yet what's fascinating, this is not this topic of conversation today, is that we try to manage and control people to do it our way. But what you just said is, what if I just not manage and control you and let you fucking get to the end the way that you want to get there? Like, we're all going to get there. And even sometimes they don't. That's the other thing, is like, what if they just don't get it done? I don't know. That's a different topic, but that's a really great way to put it.
To the couples thing, because like, if we're in a boat trying to like row it in a direction and your style is to do it this one way and mine is to do it this other, like choosing to make a life with somebody is different. Like I would have a hard time being like, let go and let God with Rae on things. You know what I mean? Because we're doing it together.
Yeah. This is fun. Okay. I want to ask you a couple of very direct questions for each of you individually, and they may be the same, but since you're the same type, but obviously two different human beings, how would you describe yourself?
Well, creativity is like, top. I'm also really friendly and really, like I'm a helper. Like I want to help. Like it has been in me since I was
bleeding heart,
super young, of like, how do I, contribute something basically. And I'm also like a shameless flirt. Like, I think I forget that like my affect is to like be flirty with people. And I don't really mean anything. Like the only person I'm like intentionally flirting with is you. But like my like friendliness, I think, comes off as flirtiness with people. And so I think that's kind of unintentional, but it's like, that's what like my friendliness and my like excitedness about people, and I'll like geek out with whatever they're geeking out about. If somebody's like super into something, I want to like geek out with them about it.
Your enthusiasm,
very
like
enthusiastic.
Infectious.
That was such a great description. I love it. And I
total
This is
dork.
so
Like,
ENFP.
I've never been cool, like I'm not. Sometimes people, you like mistook me for somebody really cool.
Like you.
Yeah,
that was because I didn't know you.
But like, I don't take myself very seriously. I guess. Yeah. Anyway,
okay, Gina,
go.
your turn. How would you describe yourself?
I am. People would say I'm friendly.
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty friendly. I really like to bring people together.
Mm-hmm.
I really like to be an expert. I like to know a lot of things and help people through like teaching and explaining and like that's where my helper stuff comes out. Mm-hmm. I am also like a total like softie. It's just that Rae is such a softie. It really like it's made me feel like I'm not, but that's not true. It's just I'm married to somebody who's unbelievable on the softie scale. We had a conversation just this last week where I was like, you cannot give away all of your income to nonprofits. Like you can't just give it away to all the causes you like. There's the my little J moment, right?
Yes.
But, yeah, I think that I don't know how I did on describing myself. What would you add?
I would add that you are like the empathy queen. Like you know how to give empathy and you've like taught me how to give empathy. I know I'm not still as great about it as I could be, but like, I think that people, when they get to know you, like you also just like show up for people in these really careful and thoughtful ways.
I'm a really good mom is what that made me think of. I'm like super nurturing as a mama. I've got a big mama energy, big time. Yeah. Yeah.
And you bring that to your friendships as well. You do really thoughtful things.
My Facebook like personal profile says I will make you dinner, and it's because it is true. I will like grow the dinner that I bring to your house because Midwest right there. Yeah.
Okay. Big shift here. What have you both struggled with most in your life being an ENFP?
Organization of any kind.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, I'm really organized in my art and how I approach my art.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Follow through. Consistent and reliable follow through. I got a million ideas and I want to do them when I want to do them and not when I need to or when anybody else says I should or in any way that is reliable. Yeah.
Procrastination.
Yeah.
For me.
For you. Yeah. Mine is it's more like I want to be in charge of my time. Like I feel like gardening, so I'm going to garden today. I feel like seeing clients, I'm going to see clients. I feel like making a course program, I'll start the website and then it'll happen. Like, the follow through sucks over here.
The follow through for things that are hard for me sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really good at following through on like getting back to people on emails and like not being that artist flake. But also like if it has to do with like, tracking a whole bunch of things and reporting and whatever about my art business, then I'll put that off until I'm like, forced to do it because it's when it's tasks that I hate, I'll put it off.
Follow through is the thing that I'll beat myself up about the most. Like it's the thing I feel the most shame about, like emails that I've dropped or things that I said I was going to do. And because I aspire to do them. Like I really do want to do it, but I don't want to do the parts I don't like and I'm not great at. And then something else shiny comes along,
We both like shiny things.
We do.
It's definitely an ENFP. Probably your biggest issue, all ENFPs, is bright, shiny objects. It's very attractive. Yeah.
The world is full of them.
Yeah, it is true. Only for certain types, though, which is fascinating. You meet an ISTJ and you're like, why are things not bright and shiny to you? And they're like, I'm very regimented. I eat the same thing every day. And I'm just, they're very regimented that way.
We eat the same thing every day, but it's because it's the only thing that ended up in the fridge.
That's funny. In your retirement, it will probably be a different story when you have time to do this and grow your own food. That's funny. So Gina, I want to spend a couple minutes because I know this is a big topic for a lot of ENFPs, is that you started as a therapist same with me, and turned into a coach. And you mentioned at the beginning of the hour talking about why you switch because you don't like rules. And I know that this will be very helpful for the listeners to hear a little bit more about your desire to make that change so that you had some more freedom. So can you share with us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. I mean, in general, like I used to be a school administrator too at one point, and I always struggled with feeling confined in my workplaces. Like working for myself is really something that has helped me a lot. Because like I can be accountable here in a different way than I ever could be to teams or employers or big systems. It was really hard for me to be like, you said that has to happen Wednesday. Why? Like, is that important Wednesday? Or like, to me, I want to do and I would feel this like big inspiration, and I got a lot of no's about big ideas and felt rejected when it's just hard for me to plug into a system, with all these like big dreams and goals and ideas. And now I have so much more freedom to do those things. And some of the things, like there are rules in place in therapy for good reasons, yada, yada. And also I wasn't doing the kinds of therapy that needed the same kinds of rules. I work with a lot of very well people who are not suffering from major mental health crises. Yeah. And still needed some support. And what would happen is they would call me and be like, we love what you're saying online. We love what you're doing. We are in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we can't find anyone who does work like you do. Can you work with us? And in the constructs of therapy, love it. I couldn't see them because they were in a different state or because they traveled. Or I would have people who were like, we're a long distance couple half the year. One of us is in Antarctica and one of us lives here. Can you see us long distance? And I would have to say no. And to me, it just felt like I kept getting restricted around that stuff. Yep. That felt arbitrary and stupid, frankly. Yep. Yep. And wasn't serving my clients. And then, so in coaching, it's a little bit like the Wild Wild West. You have seen this too. Anybody can call themselves a coach. Yep. And part of what I struggle with sometimes in coaching is not feeling like the training and like professional education that I've put in is fully represented in that work either, which in some ways is like ENFP ego-ish a little bit too, right? Like, but the freedom I like would not give up. I just couldn't possibly give it up at this point.
I'm interested in this because I don't think I've ever thought of it in ENFP, but like I have always sought out and been better at jobs that allow me autonomy.
Yeah. Yes. He works from home. He's worked from home for as long as I've known him.
Yes. Yeah. I hate going into the office. If I can send you an email instead of walking down the hall and tapping on your door, I'd much rather do that and be in my own space and just be like trusted to do my job and not like micromanage. Like I can't. I hate that.
And you work better that way. Like you'll go for a walk and come back to work, or go sit in the garden and then come back to work. Right? Like
I'm way more efficient because I'm allowed to like do it on my own terms.
But there are other people who like schedules. I mean, we also like. Who knows what we're doing after the kids go to bed? It's like one night he's painting and I'm out with somebody. And then the next time I'm working later, you have it like our schedules are, because we manage our own schedules and we're not always the most organized. Like it's all over the place.
But you also need variety. So N's need, not want, variety in their life. So I watch S's. So the last house that I lived in, I like to use my neighbor as an example. So he worked at Boeing and he had been there, 30 years, and he lived the same life. He had a dog and it was like clockwork. I would be like, oh, my neighbor's almost home every single day at 2:15, would pull in, walks in the door, turns his TV on, takes his dog out, sits in his house, drinks bourbon, whiskey of some sort, and would watch TV until he went to bed. And he did the same thing every single day. Every day. And
two of our days are the same. Ever.
No, correct. And people don't get the difference. Like that makes our skin crawl. We need variety, like on the
I don't think we could do this. I don't think we not even like possible. It makes my skin crawl. I don't even understand how we would implement doing the same thing 2 days in a row. I genuinely don't know how we would do that.
No, it wouldn't happen.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah. We'd try really hard and then it would fall apart.
Yeah. The other thing I was thinking about with the therapy example is that, like, there are clinicians who do certain kinds of work and treat certain kinds of things that, like, a really regimented routine approach, like inpatient treatment. I'm thinking about like certain substance use treatment, like major mental health stuff. It's so critical that you take these very clear notes and you're charting medications and you're tracking certain behaviors. And that works for that kind of therapy for those kinds of clients. And that is not something my notes were a wreck all the time. Yeah. Now they were great for my coaching clients, but they're like handwritten kind of messy notes, right? Like,
all over the place. Over the place. Yeah. This is so fun to talk about. Maybe I'll have to have you back on a completely different subject, Gina, because I remember when I first graduated from Leos, where we both went to school, and I was trying to find my people, right? So I'm networking, and I went to a therapy club, and I just remember sitting with all these therapists, and like the topic of discussion to like inspire us was how we take clinical notes. And I'm just like, is this what we're talking about? Like why don't we talk about writing books and how we can change the world and how do we get our message out there and how do we help people? And I was like, this is what we're talking about. And so I just remember back in the day being like, there's nothing wrong with this, but I need to go find my people. And then they just turned out to be entrepreneurial type people. And this is why we're talking about this, is because I'm guessing there's probably not a lot of ISTJs listening, but if they are just like, I don't know who these 3 people are. They are a foreign concept to me. They are speaking a foreign language. They're a bunch of freaks. And it's like, great, that's fine. And this is why we're talking about this, because not everyone's the same. Okay, in closing, because I know we've got a hard stop here. I'm guessing you guys know the answers to these, but I'm really curious I love a good non-proven theory. So I have theories around type and love languages. So I am curious, I'm guessing you both know, what are your top 2 love languages?
You appreciate.
You're going to tell me what mine are.
You appreciate like words. Like it'd be better for me to say, write you a card like I did yesterday instead of giving you a spur of the moment hug.
That's because you do the other one every single day, which is my biggest. Acts of service. Nothing turns me on like acts of service. Holy shit. This guy, when he takes the cars in to get their oil changed, the fact that I haven't lifted a finger to do a dish in a decade, like, oh, it's good. And there would be a mountain of dishes, and he would just sit in my kitchen and do we would like, it was good.
Okay.
It was good.
Okay. So words and acts of service for you, Gina. Rae, what are yours?
Physical affection and quality time.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are totally different. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, you are. Yeah. Those are 4 totally different ones. Okay. That's good to know. And last but not least, and you may or may not know the answers to these, but if you were to say top 2 or 3 core values, things that you really value in your life, what would those things be?
Quality time with you and with our kids and our families. Yeah. I think really big to both of us.
Yeah, we have some politically, we have some pretty strong social justice and climate justice views that come out all kinds of ways.
Yeah,
right. With us and our fam.
Yeah. I think contributing some, in some meaningful way is important to both of us. We do it in different ways, but we don't spend our evenings after the kids go to bed, we're exhausted. We don't
watch
sit down and watch TV. We go outside in the yard and we meander around and talk to each other.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're always doing too. We're always doing stuff.
We're either envisioning stuff or we're making it happen. Yeah. That's all that we have. We're walking around the garden being and next year, this is where I'll put this in. And where are we going to travel to? And what about this thing? Or we are making stuff beautiful, creating the things. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Ends are big what ifers. It's our love language for sure.
Even my garden, Jessica is an ENFP garden.
Yeah.
It's not, there's nothing in a row.
No.
There's nothing. I didn't plan it out in advance. It just kind of ends up, and then I have to redo things a bunch of times because I didn't put it in the best spot or whatever. But
it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. It's a mess, but it's gorgeous.
Kind of reminds me of my dad's house. He's got a stunning backyard, but yeah, it's just a free for all. But to him, it's just organized chaos. I mean, he's just look at this over here and look at this over here. And it's just kind of a mess, but it's wonderful mess.
Nary a road to be found in my garden.
Beautiful.
That's for sure.
Okay, darlings. In closing, anything else you want to share with the listeners that you think it's important about either your relationship or being an ENFP? Anything unsaid?
Being an ENFP is pretty awesome. I would say that. And I would say, I think I actually asked you before we started this if there's anything we can plug for you. But I will say that the way you, Jessica, have formatted understanding type and overlaying this front seat, back seat piece and how and the implementation strategy stuff for an ENFP, frankly, I mean, I left once you got me to implementation because I can't even implement, but that's the follow through part. But your structures are really great. So I would put in a plug for ENFPs. If you're who can hold my hand and help me get my shit together?
That's very nice.
I highly recommend working with Jessica.
That's very nice. That's very nice. Thank you.
It's true.
I really, really appreciate you guys doing this. I really appreciate your enthusiasm for doing it. I mean, I had this idea months and months ago, and I was like, it's still parking lot, but life got in the way. So I just appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be honest. And I know the listeners learned things. I know there's ENFPs. This is my favorite part of doing this podcast is imagining the listeners because I hear from them. It tears me up thinking oh my God, Rae or Gina just said something that so validated who I am as a person or who I am in a relationship. And so I just want to say thank you again so much. People are going to learn a lot from this. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. From the bottom of my heart, truly, thank you so much for listening. I know that you have a ton of options, and the fact that you are taking time to listen to the Front Seat Life podcast means absolutely everything to me. If you're interested in learning more about the Front Seat Life way of life in the community, you can find out all about that at jessicabutts.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.